Welcome back, everybody, to the Good Old Hockey Podcast. If you're looking at the screen, you're watching it, you see three people, and that's not normal. But we got our buddy Zooch. He is a part of Settle Down. He does Zooch and Wilde Podcast talking about college sports. He's joining us for the Four Nations episode because as you guys are watching this on Wednesday, the Four Nations tournament starts tonight. Canada versus Sweden, 8 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to be talking about Four Nations. So you guys have this whole week. Next week on Thursday is going to be the finale game. So we'll do like a final finale preview because we'll know by Monday. But boys, how we doing? How we feeling about this Four Nations tournament coming up?
I hope that we don't lose to Canada. Other than that, I'll be happy with about any outcome. Yeah. Not happy, but that's the only outcome that will make me mad is if we lose to Canada.
This is a really unbiased podcast here. We're all totally not really heavily in support of the United States of America.
No. Yeah, we're going to be unbiased. Not really. If you're coming to get fair we'll be fair in our analysis, but there is some bias there. So I'll let everyone know that right off the rip. I have a USA hockey jersey. So you know who we're rooting for. And if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that we rip on Canada all the time. It's all in love, first and foremost, before anything, any Canadian listeners hate us, hate our guts. You probably will. But again, it's all in good fun, in all honesty.
They already hate me.
Yeah, no, that is true. And my eyes are really red right now. I promise I'm not high. I just got out of the shower. I just noticed that. But first things first, this Four Nations, I'll give a quick overview of just what it's going to be. So it's going to be starting today, the 12th, for you guys listening. It's going to be played in Montreal and Boston, both their arenas. Teams are Canada, USA, Finland, and Sweden. Now, we've already done kind of a roster breakdown and just a general discussion about the Four Nations. This is going to be a little bit more in depth on the tournament as a whole. The format is a round-robin play with a one-game final. So the point system, 3 points for a win in regulation, 2 points for an OT/shootout win, and then 1 point for an OT shootout loss, 0 points for a regulation loss. So it's a little different than the actual season rules. It's a little bit more like soccer, hence it being a round robin. But Wednesday, first game, Canada versus Sweden at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thursday, February 13th, U.S. versus Finland, 8 p.m. Eastern in Montreal. Saturday, February 15th, Finland versus Sweden at 1 p.m. Eastern. And the big one, Canada versus U.S. at 8 p.m. in Canada as well, which is a little fishy. But the championship game is played on Thursday, February 20th in U.S. But anyways, Monday, Canada versus Finland, and then Sweden and U.S. as well. So we'll have games Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday, and then Thursday being the championship. And we'll break that down after that game. Next week, we'll talk about the tournament as a whole, since it'll already be played at that point. But first things first, let's get into the now teams that have been finalized. Because last time, Alan, you and I talked about it, it was, they had announced it, but then some players have dropped out because of injuries, stuff like that. So first up, Canada, the captain, Sidney Crosby, assistant captains, Connor McDavid, Cale Makar. And now this first line, this is on ESPN. I don't know how true this is, but, they just have it in order, don't they? This is not a lineup thing.
No.
Okay, hold on. One quick.
It's all alphabetical.
Yeah, I do. I know on Instagram, NHL posted the, what's it called? They posted the actual projected lineups. Let me pull that up really quick. But initial thoughts on Captain Crosby for anyone?
He's the best player of our generation, and he's still playing at a high level.
Yeah.
He's going to be great. He's been great in every international tournament he's played in, so don't know why he wouldn't be now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had the golden goal, which we won't get into because that was the worst.
Painful.
But yeah, he was there in 2010, there in 2014. In 2018, they went back to...
They did was that the North American? No.
That was 2016. It was the year. Oh, it was the summer after Matthews got drafted.
Okay, that's when they did the North America. We had like America. Who else?
2018 was when they had the first Olympics that NHL players hadn't been to.
Yeah, because like, it was someone like Scott Gomez or somebody was like on Team USA. They weren't very good that year, but it was like not college kids, just college kids. It was like other people too. But he has 2 gold medals. They're big. I mean, their biggest goal in the Olympics of our lifetime, I guess. I mean, they won in 2002 as well, but that was like they'd lost to Team USA in the preliminary rounds. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So
that 2010 Crosby goal is like, I feel like one of the most memorable goals in hockey history. I feel like that's something you see almost daily on Instagram, that everybody still talks about, the golden goal, Sidney Crosby. It's huge.
Yeah, they do. And he's, I mean, like we said, he's Sidney Crosby. He's captain of Canada. Okay, so I pulled this up from NHL's Instagram. This is projected lineup, so it's probably not final. But line 1 would be Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, Brad Marchand, Sam Reinhart, Mitch Marner, Brandon Hagel, Braden Point, Mark Stone. That's line 3. Line 4, Sam Bennett, Anthony Cirelli, Travis Konechny. On D, Cale Makar, Devon Taves, the Colorado line, Shea Theodore, and Colton Parayko. And then Josh Morrissey, Travis Sanheim on D as well. I don't think they have updated with Drew Doughty in here. I'm sure he'll be floating in. They'll probably float in a 5th guy or 7th guy here and there. And then goalie Aiden Hill. So based off that, line 1 is pretty terrifying. I'll admit that as a USA fan. Sidney Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, Cale Makar, and Devon Taves. Really quick before we kind of get into it, but what was that playoff line or power play line that NHL kind of teased today?
It was Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, Sam Reinhart, and Cale Makar.
Yeah. So that'll be PP1. Yeah. A lot of firepower.
That's going to be the second power play.
Yeah. Not that scared. No, I mean, it's definitely that team's going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't commit penalties. I just think overall, with Canada, I just think they lack depth compared to Team USA, obviously. They're a great team. It's Canada, but Sam Bennett's a great player, but there's just some players on here where Anthony Cirelli, I guess, is a better example. I just don't see it being that deep of a team compared to years past for Canada. How about that? That's a
compared better way to what you expect from an international tournament, especially
correct.
Team Canada.
Yeah.
Like, it just is not anywhere near as deep as what we've seen in the past. Obviously, this is going back a long time, but I believe it was that that would have been the 2010 tournament. Oh, where'd I go? Oh,
you're good.
My thing cut out for a second. Compared to that, compared to that 2010 tournament, like, you had the Canada's third line was Patrick Marleau, Joe Thornton, and Danny Heatley, which was like the best line in the NHL that season.
Yeah.
Which is just nuts. That was it was either their second or third line.
Yeah.
And you think about who's their third line here: Brandon Hagel, Braden Point, and Cirelli.
Mark Stone, your favorite.
It's a Mark Stone.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not as good.
Yeah.
It's just dropped off from years past, in my opinion.
Yeah. And even, I mean, I hate to shit on Mitch Marner, but him, like, me and Zooch were talking about it. We were texting each other, and I don't see him as a winner. I'm sorry.
No.
But, like, there's players that play great in the regular season, and then there's players that are gamers. And this is what it takes. In that first line, like Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, those are all gamers. I'll give them that. But I don't know. I just kind of wanted to shit on Mitch Marner there for a second. Great player, but I don't know. I just don't see this Team Canada team being as strong as it once was. And especially goaltending. We can talk about that for a second.
That's an embarrassment.
Yeah. Aiden Hill, who is, he's a Stanley Cup champion, but he's just not like international Team Canada goalie. That's just not who I think of. And Zooch,
he's not Luongo or Martin Brodeur.
Yeah.
Like Curtis Joseph.
Carey Price.
Yeah.
Yes.
And now you have Aiden Hill between the pipes.
And they have Jordan Binnington, but it's not Jordan Binnington of 5 years ago.
I think I sent you this on Instagram, Sean. The reason why Logan Thompson was not added to the team was because I think it's Team Canada's coach is the coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. Or not, maybe it's the GM. I forget. But they weren't a fan of Logan Thompson for his time in Vegas. I don't care if you don't like the guy personally. He's lost like 4 games this season.
Yeah.
That's who you want to bring to an international tournament. Like, you're bringing Sam Montembeault. His team's in the bottom of the league.
Yeah.
Bringing Jordan Binnington. The Blues are okay this year. They're middle of the pack. Probably won't make the playoffs. Like,
yeah,
you're not bringing winners. Even Aiden Hill, like,
yeah,
the Knights won that. They won that Stanley Cup in spite of Aiden Hill. It wasn't because of Aiden Hill.
Yeah, and like the Knights that year, the defense was fantastic. And
Probably
it's not to
one of
say
the best ever.
Yeah, it's not to say that this Team Canada team is horrible on defense by any means, but yeah, it's just definitely the goalies for Team Canada. I think, and even Canadians in our comments have said that the goaltending is what scares them.
Yeah.
And a bit of the lack of depth on forwards. But ultimately, we'll really see. It is Team Canada at the end of the day. So, does anyone have final thoughts on Team Canada?
Just they better hope those goaltenders do what they need to do.
Yeah. We shall see. We'll move on to the next team on their Instagram page, which is Team Sweden. So Sweden's a team that I think they have a pretty good shot with everything. Everyone's talking about Team USA and Team Canada, but I do think the Sweden team is a little bit slept on. So first line, Jasper Bratt, Mika Zibanejad, William Nylander. Forward line 2, Philip Forsberg, Elias Peterson, Lucas Raymond. Forward line 3, Adrian Kempe, Joel Eriksson Ek, and Elias Lindholm. Line 4, Victor Arvidsson, Leo Carlson, and Rickard Rakell. I can barely read that. Defense, line 1, Victor Hedman, Rasmus Dahlin. Line 2, Gustav Forsling, Erik Karlsson. Line 3, Matthias Ekholm, Rasmus Andersson. And in net, we have Philip Gustafsson. Off the rip, what's the first thing you notice? Anyone? Oh, you're on mute, Zooch.
I said they're going to try to outplay everybody.
Yeah.
Because they're Swedish. But no, I think Sweden actually might win.
Yeah.
I think this team is significantly deeper than Canada, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I might be really high on Eriksson Ek, but I think he's one of the best two-way centers in the NHL. And him being on your third line, like you have 2 centers that are definitely better than him, is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're able to move Pettersson out to the wing. I think that's going to be beneficial to him. Like, I just see them as a significantly deeper team. I don't see any holes in their defensive core. They have probably the best defensive defenseman in the NHL, Gustav Forsling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember watching. Was it him we watched last playoffs? There was like a highlight reel of all of Gustav Forsling's just defense. Like he was, he was just a pest on defense, which is what you need. You don't need a Cale Makar to really, be a defensive team. But their defense is pretty stacked, I'd say, with Dahlin, Forsling, Hedman, Erik Karlsson. I know he's not what he once was, but he's still Erik Karlsson. And again, like we've said this before, I think these players are all going to be trying so much harder because you're wearing your country's letters and logos on your chest.
See, that's what I'm wondering about. Is I wonder, with like the standings and stuff being so close, how competitive it will be.
Yeah,
like hits wise, and because I don't know how well that would go over in your own locker room if you hurt somebody in this and you're like playing for a Stanley Cup. I think it should be competitive, but I do question a little bit like.
True. Because it's not the Olympics.
Yeah, it's not the Olympics. And like, I mean, if you look at the Eastern Conference, besides Buffalo, like every team is within what, like not every team, but
most teams,
any team could make the playoffs based on the standings right now. Like Pittsburgh probably won't, Buffalo probably won't, but I guess you never know. You could get hot and end up making it. So I don't know if it'll be as like gritty as like an Olympic game would be.
Yeah.
If it is, I'm looking at Sweden's defense, right? I never realized this looking at this.
Also, give me 1 sec. One of my dogs just escaped its kennel and came downstairs with one of my hats in its mouth. So
No worries. Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. Sweden's shortest defenseman is 6 feet tall. They have a huge defensive core.
Yeah.
Like if that
who's that?
Victor Hedman, it's Carlson and Forsling are the two shortest guys. Victor Hedman's obviously he's like 6'7", 6'6". Right? Yeah. Ekholm, I believe, is 6'5". They have Dahlin 6'3". Then let's see. I think it's Brodin is 6'2". Anderson's like 6'2", and then Forsling and Carlson are 6 feet tall. But like Forsling doesn't play like a 6 foot tall defenseman. He plays like he's 6'8", right?
Yeah.
And the rest of them kind of play like they're tall as shit. They just got a big team.
Yeah.
At least defensively,
no, they do.
And then they're playing in front of the second best goaltending core in the tournament.
Yeah, that too.
I think they're, which is weird to think about as Team Sweden, but I think they're going to be kind of a shutdown team.
Yeah.
I feel like normally Swedish teams in tournaments score a lot of goals and they rely on their goalies a lot, but I don't think they're going to need to this year. And I think that might be the make and break for the other teams in this tournament.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately with this tournament, like what Zooch was saying, is just like, one, how competitive are these guys really going to take it? Because it's not a Olympic gold medal. It's a 4-nation, like it's a new thing. I definitely, they're going to try harder than they would in the All-Star game. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really going to be, we'll see game one, truthfully. But overall with Sweden, I think they have a chance to really sneak in and get a high seed just because of, and not that the seed really matters because you're playing in Canada and the US, but they have a chance to, I think, catch some teams lacking, especially Canada and US, because they're going to be so focused on each other that I think this team could sneak in and get that second spot or even first spot. Honestly, I think they could upset a couple of teams. But yeah, I mean, goaltending wise, Philip Gustafsson, he's been pretty lights out this year. But you think Alan, you said that you think they have like the second best goaltending core?
I think they're above Canada for sure.
Yeah.
And if you look at Finland's best goaltender this season has been Kevin Lankinen, who's a great goalie, but I don't see him as a NHL starting goalie. He's a great number 2 guy. Yusei Saros has been having at least by his standards, a pretty damn rough season. It's probably the worst season in his career.
Yeah.
Now this could turn around. Obviously, it's a 5-game tournament, but I just don't see them being really that competitive. And Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has been trash this year, playing it in front of a pretty bad Buffalo team. But
yeah,
so I see them as being behind the U.S. I think it's not close. as far as what the Swedish goalies have done versus what the U.S. goalies have done this year. Philip Gustafsson's been awesome. He's by far the best goalie, I'd say. But it doesn't come close to any of the guys that the U.S. has in net.
Yeah.
Even Jeremy Swayman, who's had a bad season.
On his terms,
he's still, I think, a better goalie than any of them.
Yeah, and also, I mean, that Boston team's got to figure it out. And again, it's going to be different with, just playing. It's a best on best tournament, so you really have a different team in front of you. It's not, the Boston Bruins. It's the best American players in front of you, the best Sweden players in front of you, the best Finnish players in front. Like all those teams, I'm really curious how it's going to go. But any last thoughts on Sweden before we move on? Cool. All right, moving on next. That NHL posted Team Finland. So this team, I don't want to knock on them, but I don't know how they're going to do. First line, Arturi Lehkonen, Alexander Barkov, Mikko Rantanen. Great line there. Patrick Laine, Sebastian Aho, and then Teuvo Teravainen, Roope Hintz, Mikael Granlund, Kaapo Kakko. Third line, and then fourth line, Eetu Luostarinen, Anton Lundell, and then Joel Armia. On D, they got Nico Mikkola, Esa Lindell, Olli Mata, Rasmus Ristolainen, Juuso Välimäki. Sorry, I can barely read this. And what's that last one? Henry Jokiharju. Did I say that right?
Henri Jokiharju.
Henri Jokiharju.
You should have me read out the Finnish names from now on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know why I got a knack for it.
And then Kevin Lankinen, who you talked about. But this team, the first two lines, I will say, offensively, definitely look like a solid team.
Yeah.
Best on best. It's going to be fun to watch, especially line one play against any team, like Canada, US, Sweden. Line one is going to be stacked for pretty much all these teams, which is fair. I think those line ones, but like we said, with any competitive, Stanley Cup run, you need to have a deep team. So to go deep in this tournament as fast as it is, I think that's where this team's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And burnt.
Yeah, it's none of they're going to be able to score enough to keep up with Team USA or the Canadians. They just don't but it is weird too, because from what I read, the only game that starts with like a continuous playoff overtime is a championship, right?
Yes, everything else can go to overtime or shootout.
Okay, so in that way, I don't really like that rule. I get it for the beginning of it, but if you're 3-3 going into that 3-on-3 OT, which is what it is, right? 3-on-3 and then a shootout.
Yes, in regulation or in the round robin, yeah.
Then they could definitely win. I don't necessarily think. They would be a little bit overmatched.
Yeah,
with Team USA or Team Canada, but there's a lot of teams that get overmatched in 3-on-3, and they still end up winning because all it takes is a missed shot or a turnover, and you're going the other way on a 2-on-1.
Yeah.
So that I think that could help Finland a lot. Is that the overtime and shootout is kind of set up that way, but even still, I don't know that they're going to be able to score enough. Especially against Team USA, because Team USA is going to be able to score. And they have really good goaltending. So I don't know that they're going to beat Team USA, 4-3. I guess, like we said earlier, we could see how serious some of these guys are taking it. It's kind of a weird mix of players, I would say, on every team, because you got some guys who are really good, and then you got other guys who are I don't kind of how we were talking about earlier. I don't really know. It's weird that they're on an international team, but it's not the Olympics. So
yeah,
I guess we'll see.
True. Yeah. And I think also what's cool about this tournament, they're doing the overtime, they're doing 10-minute 3-on-3, which I think they should have in the NHL because watching your team lose in a shootout is just demoralizing. And I think it's a cool, like fun feature. It's like penalty kicks in soccer, but it's also not, because penalty kicks in soccer is like the goalie has to stand on his freaking head to stop that goal from going in. Whereas in hockey, it's like if you have Patrick Kane, who also isn't playing for Team USA, which is interesting. But if you have someone like that on your team that's just a gamer in the shootout, like you're toast. So I think the 10-minute 3-on-3, it'll be fun to kind of watch, assuming games actually go to overtime. It'll be kind of cool to see if a game even goes to shootout, because then that could kind of push the NHL to be like, okay, yeah, let's do that.
Talking about that, I noticed earlier we were talking about when you were kind of giving the introduction to the Four Nations tournament. I think the 3-2-1-0 point system is like 50 times better than what the NHL currently uses.
Yeah.
It does not make any sense that a win in the shootout is equivalent to a regulation, 8-0 blowout.
True.
That makes zero sense to me. Yep. I know obviously there's the regulation overtime wins, but I think that system is significantly better. But back to Finland, I think this team's going to ride on about 3 players. Alexander Barkov, Sebastian Aho, and Mikko Rantanen. I think this team's really going to ride or die. If those guys are going off, then I think they can be competitive. If those guys, I don't think it's possible for Barkov to have a down game. But if Aho and Rantanen aren't pulling their weight, I think this team is really going to suffer, especially when you compare their defensive core to every other team in this tournament. It's like night and day.
No, it is. And I think also with I feel like Aho and Rantanen should play together because I know they have that connection. And again, this is just NHL's projected lineup. I'm sure these lines will change throughout the week. But I'm surprised that didn't happen. But yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, I think those 3 players need to be perfect every night, which is tough to do.
This is also the only team in this tournament I'm looking at right now that doesn't have a single like number 1 defenseman, where every other team in this tournament has like 3.
Yeah.
Or more in the case of Canada and the US. They don't have a single guy where I look at them like, yeah, that's the best defenseman on that team, that's also kind of a big scary point for Team Finland. They have a guy rostered who has played 0 games in this season.
Wait, who?
It's the guy from the Senators, Nicholas Matin Palo. I don't know if I should pronounce the Finnish names because I have no idea how to pronounce that.
You said you could.
He has. I don't think he's had a single game in the NHL.
That is crazy.
Which that's got to be the only guy.
Yeah, you'd think. But I mean, I think Finland's going to really have a tough time. But again, like there's only 4 teams. It's 4 games between each. Like each team plays 4 games before the final. So if a team can't figure it out, then they're kind of screwed. So.
Sorry, he definitely has played games in the NHL. He's just only played like 20.
Okay. Still 20 games, yeah. And we're already at 50 games in the season over that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Still questionable to me.
Yeah.
They have a single number 1 guy, and every other team has at least 2.
Yeah.
I think Finland, you can make an argument for 3.
Yeah.
Maybe even 4, to be honest.
I had a post that I saved for Team USA because
that's the important team here. Let's go.
Yeah. It was the replacement, Jacob Sanderson for Quinn Hughes. Okay, so we'll move on to Team USA. Let me see and pull it up. Team USA line 1 is going to be, according to NHL.com, JT Miller, Jack Eichel, Matthew Tkachuk. Line 2, Kyle Connor, Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes. Line 3, Jake Gensel, Dylan Larkin, Brady Tkachuk. Line 4, Brock Nelson, Vincent Trocheck, Matt Boldy. And on D, we got Charlie McAvoy and, well, it says Quinn Hughes, but he's out, obviously.
Yeah.
Charlie McAvoy, and we'll put him with Adam Fox for now. Jacob Slavin and Zach Werenski, and then Brock Faber and Jake Sanderson with Noah Hannafin also rotating in. In net, Connor Hellebuck, Jeremy Swayman, and Jake Ottinger. Now, this team, this is we'll see what they do. I'm not nervous. I mean, I think this team is more than capable of winning this whole thing. Unbiased opinion there. But I mean, just looking at some of these lines, I mean, Matthews, Hughes, and Kyle Connor on the line together. I'm just so pumped to watch this team. Is all I can really say.
That's a nightmare matchup for any team in this tournament internationally. Like, Russia's not in this tournament. That's a nightmare matchup for any Russian line.
Yeah.
It's just, and that's their second line. That's gross.
Yeah. And again, like, I'm sure these lineups will shift and move. I really hope that they put the Tkachuks together on a line. I feel like we'd be robbing ourselves if that didn't happen. But even, I mean, power play 1, who would you think would go up against that Canada power play 1?
Like on the penalty kill or on our power play?
Yeah, let's do that. Power play against that Team Canada 1 with Crosby, McKinnon, McDavid, Makar, and Reinhart. Who are you putting on Team USA to kill that penalty?
Probably Brock Faber and then Jacob Slavin. Those would be my 2 defensive guys.
Okay.
And then I'm going Matt Boldy. There's a few guys you could put on as that 4th forward or as that 4th player, but I'd probably go Austin Matthews.
Yeah. To take face-offs,
to take face-offs and steal the puck and just be nasty in every single zone because I love that guy. Zooch, what are you putting out there?
Probably about the same. You kind of just have to pull the guys to the side and just say, legitimately shoot the puck down the ice if you even get close to it to keep these guys. Because there's no lineup you can put out there that you're not overmatched. So there's no just keep icing it basically and hope you kill off the penalty. Like, don't.
Yeah.
I kind of play like the Florida Panthers played in the playoffs last year and just go over to the side and just hold the puck there for as long as you possibly can and hope they don't get it and score, or at least try to get to their second line, get that first minute out of the way. And I guess just don't take penalties, whatever you do. Don't take that many penalties.
That's a big thing,
That's why I don't think the U.S. is going to be putting Brady and Matthew Tkachuk on the same line. I think that would get a little out of hand, at least against Canada.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. Yeah, probably. It will be funny, though, Matthew Tkachuk and JT Miller on a line together playing against Elias Pettersson, because I remember Tkachuk on the Flames and Pettersson, he would hound the shit out of him. So with all the drama JT Miller went through with Pettersson, I think that'll be pretty interesting to have that lineup playing against him. But yeah, I mean, this team is superstar loaded. I mean, all these guys are more than able. I think Brock Nelson maybe the weakest link, but even then, I mean, we talked about him. He won the All-Star competition.
Brock Nelson's nasty, apparently.
Yeah.
I think the worst player on this team is Chris Kreider, right?
Yeah.
You park him in front of the goal, he's gonna score.
Yeah, that too.
We looked at his stats earlier this season. He had 15 goals and 2 assists at one point.
Yeah.
You put him in front of the net, he's gonna put the puck in. He won't get any assists, but you don't need him to.
No. Someone to put the biscuit in the basket. That's all you really need.
Watch him end up putting in 7 goals in 4 games. Some stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
And the thing for Team USA this year too is it's let's say they get to a championship game and they're playing the Canadians next Saturday. Like the other countries that'll be in the Olympics next year, Sweden, Finland, Canada, I don't know what's going to be going on with Russia. I would think if there's still a war going on, they're probably going to not get the invitation to play.
Yeah.
But it's a good, Team USA can use this to get people to watch. And because it's been a while since the 2014 one, we had the weird years of 2018 and then COVID kind of messed up the 2022. Yeah. That was all weird. 2010, they kind of benefited from, and they were really good in 2010. They were a goal away from winning the gold medal, but they benefited from it being in Vancouver. In 2014, it was in Russia. So it was I remember getting up at 5 a.m. to have to watch the games. It's in Italy next year. So there's going to be the time difference where games are going to be on at weird times. So they can use this to get, develop the interest in hockey in the United States, I think, because you'll be going up against regular season, or is it All-Star week? I think next weekend's the NBA All-Star weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's the other crappy thing about all this is that I think it's Saturday, or no, I think the All-Star game is on Sunday for the NBA.
And so it'll be dunk competition Saturday night, which sucks now. So
which no one watches after 2016. No one watches that anymore.
So college basketball to go against. So they can use they'll get a lot of views if they make the championship games. They'll use it to get.
It's on ESPN and ABC too, and TNT.
Yes, yeah. Use it to get people excited. Not that people are. I think a lot of people like hockey in the United States, but you can kind of use this to get people more excited about it. Americans like their sports teams. Even though I think American soccer fans are kind of snobby and annoying about how they talk about soccer, it's a good chance to get out there. You go and win, gives you bragging rights, and people will start they'll see guys like Tkachuk or Austin Matthews, whoever, and start to follow the sport more. And it's way more Canadians, the Finns, and the Swedes are going to watch it regardless. So USA has a lot more competition going up against them than those countries do. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think Americans love to root on America. It's, we can all come together on that in this country right now. And I think in this, this stage, the weekend that we have, it's after Super Bowl, football's done with. It's a Saturday night. You throw on ESPN, you see Team Canada versus USA. It doesn't get better than that. The only thing that might be better right now would be USA versus Russia, but they're not in it. And regardless of if they're not in it or not, I know a lot of people think this is a fraudulent Four Nations because Russia isn't in it, but there's a reason they're not invited, and they need to figure their shit out, frankly, until they can.
But to be fair, is it their fault?
No, it's none of the players' fault. No,
it's just a shitty situation that.
Yeah, but it's just
world politics, which is never a good thing.
Yeah. So you just really can't do anything about it, and they're just well, we got what we got. So, I think it'll also be a good way to test for all these teams. They can test what they're going to do next year, who they're going to send next year to the Olympics.
Zooch, I think you made a great point. It gets people to watch.
Yeah.
People in the United States get really pumped up about watching, United States sports.
Yeah.
I have never spent a single day watching professional swimming or anything like that. But when the Olympics come on, you're damn right I'm watching it.
Oh, I saw next year for the World Cup, we're supposed to play England on July 4th in Boston.
Oh,
that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that is going to be on everyone is going to be they'll do their traditional 4th of July stuff, but I would guarantee that a ton of people are like that's like for like this isn't a must-win game for Team USA hockey. That's like a must. Like that's gonna like make or break Team USA.
That's gonna be
and
soccer.
the men's national team. That's what the elites call it. That like soccer, but
that's gonna be awesome because I think the U.S. in soccer is typically pretty dominant over England, at least when it comes to like the quality of players. Right? This is like the U.S. hockey team playing like Uganda, right? And I think they're pretty fucking competitive, if I remember correctly. That's gonna be an awesome game. But.
They played each other last World Cup, and I went to that soccer bar. I think Alan, we went there for a game.
I didn't go, but I remember
hockey. No. It was a hockey game, or we were watching hockey there at that soccer bar.
Yeah.
I went there for the World Cup USA. That bar was packed with people, and I guarantee, like, there was the people at the bar that watched soccer that were getting a little, stiff, like putting their nose up in the air, like, But everyone there, like, no one knew what was going on. But you see red, white, and blue, and you cheer, and that's what we're gonna have this weekend, I think.
I have a good
assuming
buddy.
the NHL promotes it enough.
I have a good buddy, one of my coworkers. Shout out Tommy. He doesn't watch hockey at all, right? And he hit me up. We were talking the other day at work, and he goes, "Let's go to like a Steelheads game. I need you to explain the rules of hockey to me." I'm like, "I'm down, bro." But he was telling me about how he watched Miracle on Ice, right?
Yeah,
great movie about the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics. Not the comeback, but the big dub over Russia.
Yeah,
that great jersey of the Soviet Union. And he's just talking about how it made him feel patriotic, and he wanted to get into hockey because of it. I think that this is a great opportunity. I'm like, yo, go watch this team. You don't need to know anything about it. Just say, hell yeah, go USA, right? Guys are feeling that way. So I think it's a great point, Zooch.
And they can do it. The NHL should do a good job. I think a lot of people think hockey is way more confusing than it actually is when they start watching it. Like, for example, like people get confused about offside. It's like, all right, the player can't be in the other team's zone past that blue line before the puck. It's not like the soccer offsides is way more infinitely confusing to me because it's just like an invisible ass line. They're like, oh yeah, this guy was. Yeah. They'll like draw it in the thing. I'm like, okay, what? Yeah. How did they know that? Like, oh, that guy standing over there with the flag raised, like signified it's offside. I'm like, okay, whatever. But they can, if ESPN and the NHL does a good job, they can explain it to people where it's not as confusing. Because when people get, like, most people I've known that haven't been into hockey and I've like taken them to a game or whatever it is, once they watch it, they really like it. They're like, oh, and I think what confuses them is it's so fast paced. Like, Americans are kind of used to dumb sports like football. It's you go and stop. Baseball, after each pitch, the game stops. Yeah. Like hockey is not, obviously there's stops, but there can be 5 or so minutes before you really get a stop for whatever the reason is. So the NHL really needs to use this to get people like invested that might not be, from the Northeast and I know there's like there's a bunch of good hockey cities across the United States that have good fans and stuff like that, but a lot of people shit on it, and it's because they don't understand it, is what I've always thought. Like that's kind of how I've been with soccer before. Like I'm not going to watch the MLS or like get up at like 5 a.m. to watch the Euro League or whatever it's called. But I also don't really understand it. I've never had someone sit down and be like, oh, okay, like, well, this is why it is offsides, or, this is why they gave this dude a yellow card because he breathed on this guy. So we'll see. I think they could really pick up a lot of steam with football being over. You're getting into the playoff crunch time, all that kind of stuff, and get people really invested because the NBA viewership and stuff is down, and people are kind of like tired of the NBA for whatever their reasoning might be. They just don't think it's as good, or they don't like the political aspects of it, whatever that might be. And the NHL, like, there's a lot of NHL players that come across as like even the Tkachuks come across as like regular. Like if you didn't know they played in the NHL, you'd be like, oh, that's just like a regular American guy who likes going out on their boat or playing golf or whatever. Like the NHL has a lot of players like that. They just are horrible about promoting them.
Well, they also like, I mean, a lot of the players act like any one of us would do if a camera was shoved in our face and a stupid ass reporter asked us, oh, what do you think of the whole, anything like, do you see Jack Hughes, like perfect example. Of how he responds to media questions. And it's just like, get out of my face. Like I don't care. And it's not like you come up like Jalen Hurts walking in, you got a $80 million chain around your neck. You sit down and you're like, oh, is that what you guys wanted to see? Stuff like that. Like, I don't know. You get a little bit more of, I don't know. It's just a different type of players, I guess. Like every other sport, I mean, you kind of just see a lot of egotistical people, and that's what people dislike about some of these guys. And I don't think really anyone in the NHL has an ego problem that I see. When they're answering media questions, they're all pretty fair. They give it back. If the reporters are assholes, they'll be, kind of a dick about it, but they're not like egomaniacs. I don't see it like that. Maybe they're, I don't know. You could think of someone, but
and they do like, I think I texted it to you the other day. Usually when the NHL does these like, I don't like mini series / documentary things, like the one on Amazon, they're always really good. Like they used to have the Road to the Winter Classic. They had for a while like the NHL 36, and they're always pretty good. Yeah, like they're always pretty good because you kind of get to see, like one that sticks out in my mind was the Road to the Winter Classic I want to say it was the Rangers were playing someone, because I know Jimmy Hayes was like one of the focus points of it.
Yeah.
And it was like around Christmas and all that stuff, because the Winter Classic is on New Year's Day. And you got to like see him like with his big ass family from Boston and like what they do on Christmas. And that's a lot of people like that. And if they saw that more, I think they would be like, oh, especially with the internet and stuff, like I like that. He seems like a nice guy. Like, let me look him up and find out more about him. Because with like the NFL, everyone knows who Patrick Mahomes is in the United States. Everyone knows who Jalen Hurts is, Tom Brady, whoever you want to say. And like basketball, LeBron, Steph Curry, like they're superstars here. So there's not like, it would feel forced, I guess, if you're like, oh, we're going to say like what a day in the life of LeBron is. And you would have him like go into the movie or like, because
you see
every single one of us would be like, oh, but like that's, LeBron James. But if some random guy from the Sabres, was it like a Steelheads game, we probably wouldn't even notice he was like, we might notice us three notice him, but
I have a great example for this. Me and Sean went to Nashville a few years back. This was 2021. And our friend Scott noticed that Matthew and Brady Tkachuk were hanging out down the street. We have a great picture of us all hanging out. They took a picture with us, right? And you could tell we were the only people who recognized them the entire time.
Yeah.
While we are, maybe 3 blocks down the street from Bridgestone Arena where the Predators play.
Yeah.
We were the only people who recognized who the hell they were. You could just tell.
Yeah.
Those
were the
funniest.
You could tell they were not that they weren't used to it, because I'm sure they get asked to get pictures all the time, but like they were drunk first off. And Brady was like, no, he's older than us. Never mind. But they were intoxicated. They weren't drunk. They were intoxicated. They had a couple drinks like we were. They
Brady
were no different than us.
Yeah. Matthew slapped Scott's ass. Shout out Matthew.
As they walked away.
That guy's awesome.
He did. As he walked away, gave him a little love tap on the ass.
And that's what I mean, is they come across as like
dudes.
Especially those guys. Yeah, like dudes, like regular, like someone that you could be like, oh, I would be friends with that guy if I had grown up with them or something like that. It's not like the NFL and NBA, and to a large extent, even baseball, are a little bit different in that way is like LeBron James was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 17 years old. Like, that's just how I see it. So I hope they do a good job of going in depth with some, especially the American players. Like, oh, this is what this guy does, blah, blah, blah. I doubt ESPN will, because ESPN, for some reason, like even the Road to the Cup series that they do, it's all like I never see it on like ESPN or ESPN. It's always on ESPN Plus, which like I have, but I don't know how many people get on ESPN Plus and like are like, oh, I'm gonna watch this random hockey show with Connor McDavid in it.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, I think ultimately, yes, I think this is a great chance for hockey to be able to crack into the top 3 of sports. I think it's going to take time though, and again, we can have a whole episode, which we probably will in the off season, just about NHL marketing, what they could be doing better, everything. Blackout rights, don't even get me started on streaming service. Like, it's just, I'll touch on it really quick because it's so damn hard to watch hockey. Like, that's the problem. And yes, I get it's an 82 game season. It's not like football where you got 16 games you got to follow plus playoffs and whatever. But with hockey, they just need to get it on more TVs is the thing. And NFL owns all the broadcasting rights. The NHL doesn't. That's the issue. Once they do, I think we could see, a little change there, have its own network, be able to play all these games. But till then, we're going to be stuck at the bottom because you're not going to compete with basketball because they overlap at the same time and they have better broadcasting rights is all it is. And football, we're never going to compete with football as much as the NFL is rigged. Yes, you heard that correct. It is rigged 100%. This Sunday showed it because Patrick Mahomes couldn't do shit when the refs weren't calling his favor. But yeah, we're never going to crack the top 3 if we don't do something.
I just got YouTube TV, right? Which has become a lot of people are getting rid of normal like cable streaming and whatnot and getting YouTube TV. NHL Network is not available on YouTube TV, which they have NBCSN like regional, which you can watch a lot of games on. But I'm pretty sure that only counts for your region. So like I can watch NBCSN regional for like Salt Lake City probably. So it all depends on what. But the fact that they don't have NHL Network, which might be a YouTube TV problem, but like the NHL should probably be pushing to get on there because that's a huge service that's kind of taken over television.
That's the thing. They have NFL Network, they have NBA Network, and they have MLB Network on YouTube TV. And the only place you can stream NHL Network is, I think, like Fubo or some random like the ones that cost $150 a month, like
Fubo,
either that or cable.
Fubo, or if you have the NHL Network subscription, which that in itself is like $80 a month. It's some stupid amount.
And guess what? You still don't get all the games.
No, because you got regional blackouts.
Yep.
We live in Idaho, right? Zooch, do you still live in Idaho?
Yep.
Okay. So we can't watch Seattle games, we can't watch Utah games, and we can't watch Vegas games, which as a fan of a Western hockey or Western
and Colorado a lot of time.
Yep. And
Colorado too. We can't watch any of those games. The Sharks play those teams a lot every season. So
well, he's a Knights fan. He can't even watch games.
That's messed up. Well, he deserves it, but
I got to watch a Bruins game the other day. That's the first game I've gotten to watch because I don't want to pay for the Knights pass. It's like $90.
Yeah.
It's just that they got to figure that out. And I don't know what it's going to take for them to do it. They also need to stop and I get they can be obnoxious and stuff like that, but TNT, I think, is smart to have Paul Bissonnette on their broadcast. Like I said, I get Spit and Chicklets can be like obnoxious, and I don't think it rubbed people the right way, like kind of how they were in the Stanley Cup Finals last year. But they have a huge following. People really like those guys. Like if you're ESPN, have them all, like add somebody to your system that is like the likable like former player instead. Like I love Mark Messier, but he also sounds like a robot like
Oh yeah.
all the time on there. Like Chris
He's also
Chelios sounded like a
apparently
robot.
douche.
Is
Yeah.
he?
I've heard
I've
some
heard-
stories about he's
yeah.
he's a horrible guy.
Yeah. But
Fuck
I mean,
you, Mark Messier. Let's
Yeah.
start some beef with TNT.
he's ESPN. I'd be glad to
Oh, it's
beef with
ESPN.
ESPN any day of the week. TNT, I enjoy TNT's lineup as a whole. I mean, they have Wayne Gretzky and Henrik Lundqvist. How can you
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, and they do a good job. And for the love of God, ESPN, get a better play-by-play announcer on your
That's
biggest games of the years.
Yeah, that's a big one too. I like PK with them, but outside of that, it's just really not. TNT clears the floor, and I feel like they have that with basketball as well. But yeah, I think even like Biz's recent thing, we can touch on that really quick because that happened. Him saying Connor Bedard, he's playing pond hockey out there. People, Chicago fans especially, which you have the right to be upset, Chicago, but for them to be like, oh my God, like, I can't believe he said that. You know, he has this many points in his career, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, did he say that a little maybe out of pocket? Sure, but that's who he is. Like, that's who he is on the show. He's like the out of pocket guy. He asked Connor McDavid about his spa and like if he can get an invite to his hot tub.
Yeah,
Connor McDavid, like, it's just stuff like that where it's like, I don't want to watch a robot, Mark Messier, ask questions to Connor McDavid. I want to see Biz call out Bedard because, frankly, he's not wrong. At the end of the day, he's not wrong. Bedard still has a lot of learning to do. He's a great hockey player and going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, but he still has so much to learn. And Biz isn't wrong in calling him out. Sure, maybe he doesn't have the best resume, but look what the fuck we're doing right now. None of us played in the NHL.
well, how many head coaches have the best
yet.
resume of like
True.
in the NA, like as a player? Not
Yeah.
Like what were Paul Maurice's stats as a player? Like nobody.
Gretzky fucking sucked as a coach.
That
Yeah.
too, yeah. He was
So-
the Coyotes
Awful.
coach for just you
For
can't
like
translate
3 years,
that.
and he got canned.
Yeah.
That guy sucked.
But you can still, I mean, maybe I'm biased because we get a lot of hate on the not a lot, but we get hate on the internet as well. Just in terms of like, oh, what do you know? It's like we truly don't know anything. But there are some things that we're right about as a fan watching hockey. That we can call out bullshit when we see it. We don't need to be a 1,000-point player in the NHL to know that Connor Bedard is not playing to his full potential right now. You know? So I don't know. That kind of irks me. But, you know, the fan base of Chicago has every right to, you know, talk shit to Biz, and I think he enjoys it. He likes playing that character of, you know, the punching bag. And the Blackhawks tweeting out that's pond hockey and having Bedard.
And you should do that. That's like a good thing to like
It
do.
is.
That grows your brand a little bit.
And guess
So-
what? We're talking about it. It's creating conversation with people. And that's
It's been
ultimately
like
what they want.
It's been a major news story, I feel like, in the last week.
Yeah. It has. We're talking about it. So it's like,
It's interesting.
yeah. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up. Okay. Betting odds I wanted to touch on really quick. Canada and the USA are plus 160. Again, this is not betting advice. I'm not giving any betting advice because I'm a horrible gambler. Do I still do it? Yes. But
Until
the
March.
Canada, yeah, we're going to be in Vegas, me and Zooch will in March, and I'm scared.
Oh,
But Canada,
boy.
US
Hey,
plus 160.
remember the glitch.
Yes, the money glitch. I remember that. Sweden plus 400 and Finland plus 900. Canada and US
That's
being even
disrespectful.
exactly the same. Yeah, Finland plus 900 is really messed up. I'm not going to throw any money on anyone, but
Put money on Sweden, if anybody.
yeah, if you're
I
true
feel like
betting
that's
advice
what you bet
here,
on.
yeah, Sweden has the best odds, plus 400. I think they have a chance to possibly do something. Always gamble with what you're comfortable losing. Don't put the house on it. Didn't say it's a lock, but if you're going to be risky, that's the risky bet right there.
Watch Kevin Lankinen let in like 3 goals in 5 games.
Yeah,
Mika Rantanen scores 2 goals a game. Finland wins the tournament.
that'd be crazy. We look like idiots, you know.
Well, I think everybody would look like idiots in that situation.
True.
But
Yeah, we wouldn't be the only ones because everyone's hyping them up. But yeah. Anything else before kick it out of here? Yeah. this tournament's gonna be a lot of fun. If you are just hearing about this, watch it tonight. It's gonna start. I think it's what is Wednesday's matchup? It is Canada versus Sweden. That'll be a good game, honestly. 8 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what channel it's on, but you can use your phone that you're listening this on, or the internet, and look it up. But that'll be a good game. And Saturday, U.S. versus Canada. Tune the fuck in. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking all the round robin games, and then previewing that championship game on Thursday. And maybe if it's Canada versus U.S., maybe we do a little live stream or something that night. It'd be fun. But other than that, Zooch, thank you for joining us and talking all that stuff. I'm excited. Go Team USA. And yeah, anything else before we get out of here?
Nothing. I'm excited to see how you guys do on this trivia.
Oh, yes. We're going to have a trivia here soon. You'll see it on the Instagram with the clips and stuff. So with that being said, peace out, guys. See you guys next week. Go USA. Go Birds.